Hey bro, did you hear?
Hmm? Hear what?
He's back.
Who's back?
Freud. They found him.
Wait, what? The dude's been dead for a while now.
But he's alive somehow. They found him. So he's back.
Who are these people you're referring to? Who's they?
You'll see. We're almost there. You'll see.
Sigmund Freud. You are in violation of Law 961, subsection 65, which states that you must comply with forced labor 60 days from now under the Intelligence Act if adequate reasons are not given for your violation.
In other words, you're forcing me to practice psychoanalysis when I don't want to? But why?
As the founder of psychoanalysis, it's your duty to contribute to society with your gifts and talents. In short, people need your help. Both therapists and clients will benefit from your involvement.
But what if I were to tell you that the world is no longer conducive to what I have to offer? That it misunderstands? That therapy misunderstands itself, its own role in today's world? That there's an epidemic within psychotherapy itself?
We understand your position and we are sympathetic. Therefore, all the more reason for your involvement. However, as we are unable to convince you, we are bringing in a witness, a case study, in order to highlight the importance of your role in the matter.
This should be interesting.
Bring in the witness. Please state your name for the record.
Zen Mu.
Zen Mu, it is our understanding that for 15 years of your adult life, you struggled with psychogenic seizures. Please tell us your story.
Well, I came home from work one day and collapsed suddenly in the foyer. My body started convulsing and seizing up on me. My mind, however, was watching the whole episode in a curious manner. I kept telling myself that I'll just stop with the seizures and get up off the floor. However, my mind had no say in the matter. My body was doing its own thing. I spent several days in the hospital because the same thing kept happening from time to time. The doctors conducted tests and scans on my body and ruled out neurological sources for the seizures, and seizure medication wasn't working. One day, as I was resting, a special type of nurse came to visit me. She sat by my bed for a while, and as I wasn't available for a conversation, she quietly left a pamphlet on my nightstand. It was a simple piece of paper explaining that a subset of individuals suffer from psychogenic non-epileptic seizures, that the source was psychological, not neurological. This gave me renewed hope and started a long journey towards recovery, but more than that, a journey of discovery of who I was and am, what's important to me, and the meaning of justice in the world, and the importance of valuing life. It was a long and complicated journey, but very enriching. I've become a fuller human being as a result. However, there were many roadblocks along the way.
Please describe these roadblocks for the court.
Well, for one, I've seen many mental health professionals, counselors, psychologists, and psychiatrists, and the diagnoses or labels for what I was experiencing were varied. People put emphasis on different things. From one point of view, I had crippling anxiety handed down to me genetically, and only drugs could help me cope with life without any hope of an absolute cure. To another, I had pent-up emotions that were difficult to access, and only through bypassing my rational mind could I access them and allow them to surface. There were others who suggested only a rational therapy such as cognitive behavior therapy could help undo the crippling effects of anxiety and depression, and the unhealthy thought patterns and beliefs that I held about myself and the world. And there were also spiritual and religious solutions offered to me, which I also pursued. And although all these things helped to a certain degree, they weren't enough. I still embarrassingly carried around these seizures in my daily life. It wasn't until I came across Freud and Breuer's book, Studies in Hysteria, that my healing journey began. The connection between hysteria and psychogenic seizures was solid. In fact, in many ways they are the same thing. And in Freud's experience, to hear that it was highly intelligent and functional people who suffered from them brought a measure of normalcy and self-acceptance into the equation. And in the book, to also hear of a particular man who was seeking justice for being wronged unfairly, and then suffering from seizures when he was denied that justice, also spoke volumes to me. In the end, I realized that my body, and the uncontrollable seizures, was telling an important and urgent story. It was just a matter of finding the right language, or cipher, to unlock the meaning of this story. Freud's original writings gave me the language to do that. However, it was,
As you can see, Sigmund Freud, even in our day and age, we could still use your insights and involvement in cases like these, where the status quo categories don't fit for a person.
Ah, I see. Well, thank you, Zenmu, for sharing your journey, and thank you to the court for searching out this witness. Zenmu, I'm glad my books were of service to you, especially given the pain of being misunderstood, which can only aggravate the issue and make it quite a lonely journey for yourself. However, you were going to say something further before you got cut off by the court. I'm listening.
yes, I was going to say that reading your writings was only part of the journey. It set me on the right path, but I had to push beyond the confines of psychotherapy and into philosophy, and even into life itself, to find the rest of the missing pieces.
Yes, I suspected as much. So in my defense, suggest to the court that it will be important to unpack these further elements in Zenmu's story, because my instincts tell me that they could also be related to my decision to not practice psychoanalysis for the time being.
The court will take your request into consideration and deliberate over the matter, but as of now, the 60-day compliance period still stands. We will reconvene in 30 days from now to reassess the case. Court dismissed.
Oh, great, you made it. I wondered if they'd ever let you out, Sig.
Yes, there's lots of paperwork involved. Well, at least we can relax now and play a few matches together.
Yeah, that sounds great. It was pretty intense. Oh man, these guys again. I guess I'll go DPS.
It looks like they have status builds on their team, so maybe I'll go Viljammer?
Sounds like a good plan. There's 2 on the left over there. By the way, what you been up to lately in your spare time, other than playing video games?
Well, at your suggestion, I've been reading a lot of Nietzsche. As you know, I did come across some of his ideas and writings back in the day, but didn't really get a chance to do a thorough investigation.
So what do you think so far?
Well, there's a lot there.
Yeah, sorry, kind of a general question, which makes it kind of hard to answer.
Why don't you tell me what you think as it relates to you, or more specifically, to the case of your seizures, and how Nietzsche has filled in the gaps for you as it relates to my writings? Could we do that?
Yeah, why not? And it will hopefully clear up some of the confusion, or perhaps support you in your current case with the court.
Gosh darn, even with the jammer, These guys just love their skill builds.
Well, to get right to the point, there's the idea of cocooning, like when an entity is in a chrysalis before becoming a butterfly. Nietzsche doesn't use that word, but the idea is there when he talks about how philosophers had to cocoon or identify themselves under other names or professions for a while because they weren't quite ready to become their full selves, out in the open. Like how a butterfly spreads its wings in full measure and flies off into the air in full freedom.
Yes, I remember. The philosophers identified themselves as priests or shamans, etc., because there wasn't a category for the philosopher yet. The philosopher type didn't exist. It was being discovered as philosophers found the courage to understand and be themselves.
Yeah, well, similarly, what I found is that you get all these young people, especially the new and younger generations, who don't quite fit into society's general categories. For example, the ideal student or worker. And then it becomes nuanced. It's not just the roles they don't fit into, it's even the personality types or what it even means to be a fundamental human being that is up in the air for debate. And so psychology on the streets and in the mental health industry has all these labels in the form of diagnoses that people can now fall into and use as a way of finding identity, safety, meaning, and even purpose in order to deal with life.
Can you give me an example?
For example, my seizures were related to a sense of justice. If something wasn't right in the environment I was in, then there was a healthy anger or sense of justice that would well up within me. But because all the conventions of the day were telling me that justice wasn't allowed, that whatever oppression was going on in the environment was the status quo and not to be messed with, there was a conflict within me. And if I ignored what was right or the sense of justice within me for too long, my body would begin to shake.
Like the Incredible Hulk? Ha 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 ha. I love that guy. I wish he would sit on my couch. Wait, no, never mind. He's fine just the way he is. Ha 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 ha.
Exactly. That to me is green anger, not black anger. Have you seen the TV series House yet?
The one with the sarcastic but brilliant medical doctor?
Yeah, that one.
I've got to say, I love that show. I haven't finished it yet. So much to see and do. Can you blame me for not wanting to practice psychoanalysis right now?
Oh, there's one more on the right. There he is. Yeah, get him. Nice one, Sig. Anyway, I had a dream one night that I was on a bus. And you know how House gets all these complicated cases, the ones that no one else can solve, right?
Uh-huh.
So I'm a bit unsolvable at the moment with my psychogenic seizures. It's a bit complicated. But then he shows up while I'm riding a school bus and whips out his whiteboard and starts brainstorming in his usual way. But instead of diagnosing with his medical team, he's discussing it directly with me.
Amazing.
Then suddenly he solves it. He tells me that there's two types of anger and draws two colors on the whiteboard. There's black anger, which is bad, no good, vile, malicious, pointless, etc. And there's green anger, which is good, healthy, and related to justice. But they aren't separate categories. It's a spectrum. They blur into one another on a gradual scale. That dream was revelatory to me.
Are we on a tangent now? Feel like we're on one, but in a good way.
Yeah, so what this all means is that diagnosing me and my seizures under the usual categories and labels of anxiety, ADHD, neurodivergence, etc. is a way to
cocoon until you are ready for more organic answers or ways of being.
Yes, exactly.
And that's exactly why it would be highly troublesome, both to others and to myself, to practice psychoanalysis today.
Because the organic element is snuffed out, it's too confining.
Yes, but
Well, you haven't really changed all that much if you ask me. One of the things I used to do with your writings is that I'd ignore what everyone else was saying about them, how to understand them, what you were saying, etc., all the interpretations, and I would just go to the horse's mouth. But instead of looking for formulas, techniques, or answers, which I did at first, I eventually found it most helpful and enjoyable to read your writings as though I was reading a novel. A way to just sort of hang out with you, get to know you, be around you in a very casual way, much like we're doing now, just chilling and playing video games.
Well, I appreciate that.
And I appreciate you writing in a manner that allowed for this kind of reading. It was a process for you, a journey of discovery in psychoanalysis. I can see and feel that, even as your intention and desire to help people also really came through once I let go of the anxiety of trying too hard to understand your theory and techniques for some practical purpose today.
Well, one can only hope that even though the ideas and concepts I settled on in my theory and practice were also a way of cocooning, a temporary shelter for people to find some healing and hope, meaning and direction, that it would go way beyond that. That one day they would blossom into butterflies, spread their wings, and live beyond all the diagnoses and labels.
And like butterflies, they will still carry vestiges of their cocoons with them in their flight as grounding tools when needed from time to time.
Yes, however, life is in the flight. GG.